Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back, way back, over 3,000 years, to a place where the sun blazes with an intensity you can almost feel on your skin right now. Imagine yourself standing on the banks of the Nile, the lifeblood of an ancient civilization, a gentle breeze rustling through papyrus reeds. The air is warm, thick with the scent of dust, and something else, something flowery and sweet, perhaps a hint of burning incense from a nearby temple. You see people moving about their daily lives, their linen garments light against the heat, their eyes rimmed with a striking dark pigment. You glance down at your own hands, perhaps a little too pale, a little too modern, and realize that surviving a day here, especially without the right sun protection, would be quite the feat. It's a world where beauty wasn't just about looking good. It was about health, status, and even connecting with the divine. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening in, why not drop a comment with your location and local time? I love seeing where you're all nodding off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you gaze at the shimmering waters of the Nile, you notice the rhythmic thump-thump-thump of someone washing linen, a sound that has echoed through these valleys for millennia. The sun, a golden orb in the azure sky, beats down, making you squint, even with your imagined modern sensibilities. But the Egyptians around you, they seem to handle it with a certain grace, their skin often appearing surprisingly smooth and supple despite the harsh desert environment. This wasn't by accident, you quickly realize. Their daily routine was a carefully orchestrated dance with nature, a blend of practicality and profound cultural belief. For them, hygiene and aesthetics were intertwined, almost inseparable. You see a woman by the water's edge, her hands deftly working a piece of fabric, and then she pauses, reaching for a small, intricately carved wooden box. From it, she extracts a tiny spatula, dipped in what looks like a thick, oily substance. She gently applies it to her arms, a slow, deliberate motion. This isn't just a moisturizer. It's a shield against the relentless sun, a secret passed down through generations. One of the most mainstream historical facts about ancient Egyptian beauty is their extensive use of oils and balms derived from plants. Think about it: a desert climate, relentless sun, and constant exposure to fine dust. Your skin would be screaming for moisture. They used oils from castor beans, morina, and even olive oil, though the latter was less common and often imported. These weren't just for softness. They were believed to offer protection from the sun's harsh rays and to ward off wrinkles. Imagine having to make your own SPF every morning from scratch. No convenient tube for them. It makes you appreciate your morning routine, doesn't it? Now for a quirkier tidbit. Did you know that some ancient Egyptian recipes for skincare included surprising ingredients? We're talking about things that might make you wrinkle your nose a bit. For instance, there's evidence of remedies that incorporated ingredients like animal fats, ground alabaster, or even, in some rather extreme cases, crocodile dung mixed with other substances to create a kind of paste for exfoliation or blemish treatment. Yes, you heard that right. Crocodile dung. It certainly puts modern charcoal masks into perspective, doesn't it? You might pause and wonder if that woman by the Nile is perhaps subtly incorporating some lesser-known ingredients into her beauty regimen, though you certainly hope not the latter. It's a testament to their resourcefulness, or perhaps their desperation to achieve and maintain perfect skin in a challenging climate. Historians still argue whether the primary motivation for these elaborate beauty routines was purely aesthetic or if health and spiritual well-being played an equally, if not more, significant role. Were those richly decorated cosmetic palettes simply for applying makeup, or were they tools for hygiene, designed to protect the body from disease and the harsh environment? As you watch the sun dip a little lower, casting long shadows across the landscape, you begin to understand that for the ancient Egyptians, these practices were likely a seamless blend of both, a holistic approach to life that often escapes our modern, segmented understanding. Their beauty wasn't just skin deep, it was woven into the very fabric of their existence. As the sun begins its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, your gaze is drawn to the captivating eyes of the Egyptians around you. Those dark, almond-shaped eyes, often extended with a bold, black line, are not just striking, they seem to hold an ancient wisdom. This, you realize, is the magic of coal, perhaps the most iconic of all ancient Egyptian beauty secrets. It wasn't merely a cosmetic, it was a statement, a protective barrier, and even, some would argue, a spiritual conduit. You might think of coal as just eyeliner, something you swipe on before heading out for the evening. But for the ancient Egyptians, its purpose was far more profound. Imagine living in a land where the sun's glare off the sand could be blinding, where flies were a constant nuisance, and where eye infections were a genuine threat. Coal, made from galena, a lead, ore, malachite, and other minerals, wasn't just decorative. It served a very practical function. It reduced the sun's glare, much like ancient sunglasses. The dark pigment absorbed the harsh light, allowing for clearer vision in the bright desert. And here's a little secret. Modern research has actually shown that the lead compounds in coal had antibacterial properties. So, while we might worry about lead today, for them, it was literally eye medicine, keeping those pesky infections at bay. Who knew makeup could be so therapeutic? One mainstream historical fact about coal is its omnipresence across all social classes. From the grand pharaohs to the humble farmers, everyone seemed to use it. You see children, even infants, with delicate coal lines around their eyes. This wasn't about making them look adorable for ancient Instagram. It was a crucial part of their health regimen. It protected their developing eyes from the harsh elements, and perhaps from evil spirits too, as many believed that the eyes were windows to the soul and thus vulnerable. Now for a quirky tidbit. The precise application of coal was often a ritual in itself. They didn't have liquid liners or gel pots. Instead, they would grind the minerals into a fine powder, often mixing it with a small amount of oil or water to create a paste. This paste was then applied using a thin stick, typically made of wood, ivory, or metal. Imagine the steady hand required to get that perfect winged line every single day. And the sticks themselves were often beautifully decorated, little works of art that were passed down through families. You can almost see an ancient Egyptian mother patiently teaching her daughter the precise angle to hold the coal stick, a lesson in both beauty and tradition. It's enough to make you appreciate the ease of your modern makeup brush, isn't it? Historians still argue whether the elaborate wing that extended from the outer corner of the eye was purely for aesthetics, or if it had a deeper, symbolic meaning related to the falcon god Horus, whose eye was a powerful protective symbol. Was it simply a fashionable flourish, or did it invoke divine protection, literally drawing the eye of the god onto the wearer? As you watch another figure meticulously apply their coal, you consider how this simple act transcended mere appearance. It was a fusion of art, medicine, and spiritual belief, a testament to a culture that saw beauty not as superficial, but as deeply intertwined with their very existence. The evening star begins to twinkle, and you realize that even in the fading light, those coal-rimmed eyes still hold a captivating power. As the cool desert air begins to settle, you might feel a lingering dryness on your own skin, a stark reminder of the harsh environment. But the ancient Egyptians, as you've observed, seem to possess a remarkable resilience, their skin often appearing surprisingly supple and well cared for. This brings us to the fascinating world of their skincare, a realm of soothing oils, protective balms, and even peculiar exfoliants designed to combat the unforgiving climate. One mainstream historical fact about ancient Egyptian skincare is their profound understanding of botanical remedies. They weren't just slapping on whatever they found. They had a sophisticated knowledge of plants and their properties. They extensively used oils from morena, castor beans, and flaxseed, which were highly prized for their moisturizing and emollient qualities. These oils weren't only for the face. They were used all over the body to prevent the skin from cracking and drying out in the intense sun and wind. Imagine a daily full-body oiling session, not just as a luxury, but as a necessity for survival in the desert. It sounds rather decadent, doesn't it? A far cry from our quick pump of lotion. Now, for a quirkier tidbit. While they used soothing oils, they also engaged in some rather robust exfoliation techniques. We know from ancient texts and archaeological finds that they would use abrasive substances to slough off dead skin. This could include finely ground alabaster, or even a paste made from natron salt, which is a naturally occurring mineral mix. Imagine scrubbing yourself down with a gritty paste of crushed rock and salt. It certainly sounds like it would get the job done, perhaps a little too vigorously for modern tastes. This pursuit of smooth, youthful-looking skin clearly wasn't a new concept. It makes you wonder how many ancient Egyptian spa days ended with a gentle massage after a rather vigorous scrub. Historians still argue whether the widespread use of these oils and balms was primarily driven by a desire for beauty or by a deeper understanding of hygiene and health in a harsh climate. While the aesthetic appeal of glowing, unblemished skin is undeniable, the practical benefits of protecting the skin from sun damage, insect bites, and infection were equally crucial. Was it about looking divine, or about preventing skin lesions? As you drift off, you can almost feel the gentle application of morena oil, a sensation both luxurious and essential for survival, blurring the lines between vanity and necessity. The desert air is calm now, and the quiet rhythm of the ancient world lulls you further into a peaceful state. The desert nights in ancient Egypt, while cool, hold a stillness that encourages deep rest. As you settle further into the quiet, you might notice something else about the people of this ancient land: their remarkable hair. Far from the simple styles we might imagine, ancient Egyptian hair care was an elaborate art form, involving everything from meticulously crafted wigs to complex braiding techniques and a range of surprising treatments. One mainstream historical fact about ancient Egyptian hair is the widespread use of wigs. It wasn't just about fashion. Wigs served multiple practical purposes. In the searing heat, a shaved head or closely cropped hair was far more comfortable and hygienic, reducing the risk of lice and heat stroke. Wigs then offered protection from the sun, symbolized status, and allowed for elaborate styling. They were crafted from human hair, plant fibers, or even wool, meticulously braided or attached to a mesh cap. Imagine the dedication, spending hours creating a perfect wig, only to swap it out for another equally elaborate one the next day. It makes you think twice about your quick 5-minute hair routine. Now for a quirkier tidbit. Ancient Egyptians weren't shy about using some rather unconventional ingredients in their hair treatments. While they had various plant-based oils and essences, there's evidence suggesting they also employed concoctions involving ingredients like animal fat, hedgehog spines. Yes, you heard that right. Hedgehog spines. And even burnt mice. These somewhat bizarre components were sometimes mixed with herbs and oils, believed to stimulate hair growth or darken gray hair. It certainly makes modern hair dye seem rather mundane, doesn't it? You might chuckle imagining the ancient equivalent of a salon, where these fragrant, or perhaps not so fragrant, mixtures were lovingly applied. Historians still argue whether the elaborate hairstyles and wigs were primarily for religious rituals and funerary practices, signifying a connection to the divine or a readiness for the afterlife, or if they were largely a display of personal wealth and status in daily life. While images on tomb walls certainly depict intricate styles for the deceased, everyday representations also show people adorned with impressive coiffures. Was it a sacred duty or simply about looking fabulous? As you drift deeper, the image of ancient Egyptian heads, both natural and wigged, adorned with beads, ribbons, and flowers, fills your mind, a testament to their enduring fascination with the art of personal presentation. The quiet of the ancient Egyptian night is broken only by the gentle whisper of the wind, carrying with it the subtle hints of distant floral notes. You realize that beyond coal and oils, the air itself in ancient Egypt often carried the intoxicating essence of scented pleasures. Perfumes, incense, and fragrant unguents were not just luxuries. They were integral to daily life, religious rituals, and even the preparation for the afterlife. One mainstream historical fact about ancient Egyptian fragrance is their sophisticated use of unguents and balms infused with aromatic resins and flowers. These weren't sprays like our modern perfumes. They were thick, oily substances that were rubbed onto the skin or hair. The most prized ingredients included frankincense, myrrh, lily, lotus, and henna. Imagine the careful process of macerating flowers in oil over days or even weeks, extracting their precious essences. These fragrances weren't just for smelling good. They were believed to have medicinal properties and to purify the body, making them essential for health and religious rites. You can almost smell the blend of sweet florals and earthy resins wafting through the air, a scent that speaks of both beauty and sanctity. Now for a quirkier tidbit. The ancient Egyptians were so enamored with their perfumes that they often wore solid cones of fragrant fat on their heads during banquets and festivities. As the evening progressed and the heat of the body warmed the fat, the cone would slowly melt, releasing its perfumed oils, which would then drip down over the wig and clothing, creating a continuously refreshing scent. It sounds a little messy, doesn't it? Imagine trying to explain that fashion choice to a modern partygoer. You might find yourself chuckling at the thought of a distinguished noble, elegantly adorned, with a slowly melting blob of perfumed fat on their head. It certainly puts a new spin on fragrance diffusion. Historians still argue whether the primary purpose of these opulent fragrances was to mask body odor in a world without modern deodorants, or if their spiritual significance, particularly in offerings to deities and in funerary practices, held greater weight. Were they essentially ancient air fresheners, or were they prayers in liquid form? As you drift, the lingering scent of lotus and myrrh seems to envelop you, blurring the lines between the mundane and the divine, between mere adornment and a deeper connection to the unseen world. It's a sensory journey that promises to lull you into a very peaceful slumber. The fragrant air of ancient Egypt begins to deepen with the arrival of true night. As you continue your gentle journey through this bygone era, you might find yourself considering the more mundane, yet utterly essential, aspects of daily hygiene. This brings us to a surprisingly fascinating subject: oral hygiene. How did the ancient Egyptians keep their teeth clean in a world without toothbrushes and fluoride toothpaste? The answers are, in typical Egyptian fashion, both ingenious and a little unexpected. One mainstream historical fact about ancient Egyptian oral hygiene is their pioneering, albeit basic, forms of toothpaste. They weren't just chewing on sticks. They actually formulated pastes and powders to clean their teeth and freshen their breath. Ingredients included finely ground rock salt, mint, dried iris flowers, and pepper, all mixed together. Imagine brushing your teeth with a slightly gritty, vaguely spicy, and floury concoction. It sounds like quite the experience, doesn't it? These abrasive mixtures were then rubbed onto the teeth with fingers or a small chewing stick, attempting to remove food particles and polish the tooth surface. It certainly makes you grateful for the array of toothpastes available in your local pharmacy. Now for a quirkier tidbit. Despite their efforts, dental problems were rampant in ancient Egypt, largely due to their diet. Their staple food, bread, was often made with flour ground between stone querns, which meant it contained tiny bits of grit and sand. This abrasive quality would gradually wear down tooth enamel, leading to cavities, abscesses, and severe toothache. So, while they had their toothpastes, they were constantly fighting an uphill battle against their own culinary practices. You can almost hear the soft groans of an ancient Egyptian after a particularly gritty meal, longing for a modern dental visit. It just goes to show, some problems are truly timeless, even if the solutions change. Historians still argue whether the dental issues common in ancient Egypt were primarily due to the abrasive nature of their diet, or if a lack of understanding about bacterial decay played a more significant role. Was it the grit in their bread, or the absence of proper germ theory that led to so much suffering? As you drift off, you can almost feel the uncomfortable sensation of tiny stone fragments between your teeth, a subtle reminder of the everyday challenges faced by even the most meticulously groomed ancient Egyptian. The gentle hum of history continues, promising to carry you deeper into slumber. As the quiet of the night deepens, and you find yourself nestled comfortably in the past, a new aspect of ancient Egyptian personal expression begins to emerge from the shadows: the intriguing world of body art. Beyond the striking kohl-rimmed eyes and carefully coiffed wigs, the Egyptians embraced various forms of permanent and temporary adornment on their skin, revealing a fascinating blend of aesthetic, spiritual, and social meanings. One mainstream historical fact about ancient Egyptian body art is the practice of tattooing. While not as overtly documented as other beauty practices, archaeological evidence, particularly from mummified remains, clearly shows that tattoos were present. The most famous example is perhaps the mummy of Amunet from the Middle Kingdom, a priestess of Hathor, who bears intricate patterns of dots and dashes on her thighs and arms. These weren't just random marks. They often featured geometric designs, dots, or small figures of deities like Bes, a protector of women and childbirth. Historians believe these tattoos likely held protective or therapeutic purposes, especially for women, perhaps to ward off evil or to aid in fertility and childbirth. Imagine getting a series of tiny dots tattooed onto your body, not for rebellious self-expression, but for spiritual protection. It certainly changes your perspective on the permanence of body art. Now for a quirkier tidbit. While tattoos were permanent, the Egyptians also utilized various forms of temporary body painting, most notably with henna. Henna, derived from the henna plant, produces a reddish-brown dye that stains the skin temporarily. It was used to decorate nails, palms, and soles of the feet with intricate designs, especially for celebrations, religious festivals, or before marriage. And here's where it gets interesting. Some theories suggest that besides decoration, henna also offered a cooling sensation, especially on the feet, providing a subtle relief in the hot climate. So, it wasn't just about looking good, it was about feeling good, too. You can almost picture an ancient Egyptian woman meticulously applying henna designs to her hands before a grand feast, the earthy scent of the paste filling the air. Historians still argue whether tattooing was more prevalent among certain social classes or professions, such as dancers or priestesses, or if it was a more widespread practice across society than current evidence suggests. Was it a mark of status or a specific role, or simply a matter of personal choice? As you drift further, the image of bodies adorned with both the lasting whispers of ancient tattoos and the fleeting beauty of henna designs comes into focus, reminding you that human desire for self-expression is a thread that connects us across millennia. The ancient world is now a gentle hum, inviting you deeper into its peaceful embrace. As the ancient Egyptian night deepens, a sense of tranquility settles over the landscape. You've seen how individuals cared for themselves, but now let's explore the intriguing nuances of gendered rituals in ancient Egyptian beauty. While many practices were shared, the emphasis and societal expectations surrounding beauty often differed subtly between men and women, painting a richer picture of their distinct roles and aspirations. One mainstream historical fact is that, unlike many other ancient societies where cosmetics were primarily associated with women, in ancient Egypt, beauty practices were embraced by both sexes. Men, just like women, regularly applied kohl to their eyes for protection and aesthetic appeal, and they also used perfumed oils and balms to protect their skin from the sun and keep it supple. Pharaohs, high priests, and even ordinary workmen would shave their heads and wear elaborate wigs. It wasn't uncommon to see a group of male scribes, their eyes strikingly lined, their skin gleaming from oil, discussing their day. This widespread acceptance of male grooming truly sets ancient Egypt apart from many other cultures, where such practices might be seen as effeminate. It almost makes you wish modern society was a little more open to everyone embracing a full-body moisturizing routine without judgment. Now for a quirkier tidbit. While both sexes used cosmetics, women sometimes had a wider range of vibrant colors available to them for certain applications. For instance, while both men and women used black kohl, women might also use green malachite pigment for eyeshadow, creating a striking contrast. And when it came to lip and cheek stains, often made from red ochre or other mineral pigments, these were predominantly, though not exclusively, used by women. Imagine a vivid green eyeshadow paired with a bold red lip, a look that would certainly turn heads even today. This subtle difference in color palette suggests that while beauty was universal, the expression of it had certain gendered conventions. Historians still argue whether the perceived differences in beauty practices between men and women were primarily a reflection of their distinct social roles and public appearances, or if they were also influenced by differing aesthetic ideals and conceptions of masculinity and femininity within Egyptian society. Was it about reinforcing gendered expectations, or simply different ways of expressing beauty within a shared cultural framework? As you drift deeper into sleep, you might imagine the subtle, yet distinct, preparations taking place in separate chambers. The precise lining of kohl for a nobleman before a council meeting, and the meticulous application of a rose-scented balm for a noblewoman before receiving guests. The nuances of ancient gender roles, even in beauty, quietly unfold before you. The calm embrace of the ancient Egyptian night continues. Having explored the universal and gendered aspects of beauty, let's now turn our attention to the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian society, the royal regalia of the pharaohs. Their cosmetic routines were not merely about personal vanity. They were deeply interwoven with their divine status, political power, and their role as intermediaries between humanity and the gods. One mainstream historical fact about royal beauty is the sheer opulence and scale of the pharaoh's cosmetic preparations. Unlike ordinary citizens, pharaohs had access to the rarest and most expensive ingredients, often sourced from distant lands through extensive trade networks. Gold dust was sometimes mixed into balms for a subtle shimmer, and highly prized resins like frankincense and myrrh were used in abundance for their spiritual significance as well as their scent. You can almost envision the elaborate preparations taking place in the royal chambers, with servants meticulously applying unguents and pigments, ensuring every detail was perfect for a ruler who was considered a living god. It certainly beats scrambling to find your car keys in the morning, doesn't it? Now for a quirkier tidbit. Pharaohs, particularly during grand ceremonies, often wore exceptionally heavy and elaborate wigs that were so voluminous, they sometimes required counterweights or special supports to keep them stable. These weren't just everyday hairpieces. They were intricate constructions, adorned with jewels, golden rings, and sometimes even miniature depictions of deities or protective symbols. Imagine trying to deliver a speech or lead a procession with a massive, possibly teetering, wig on your head. It sounds like a comical balancing act, but for the pharaoh, it was a display of ultimate power and divine connection, literally elevating their presence. Historians still argue whether the extreme emphasis on physical perfection and elaborate cosmetic routines for pharaohs was primarily to reinforce their divine authority and legitimacy, or if it was also a reflection of their personal aesthetic preferences and a desire for perpetual youth. Was it a performance of godhood, or simply ancient power dressing? As you drift deeper into the tranquility of the night, you might picture a pharaoh, eyes perfectly kohl-rimmed, skin gleaming with precious oils, ready to meet their people, not just as a ruler, but as a living embodiment of order and beauty. The gentle whispers of ancient power lull you further into a peaceful slumber. The profound silence of the ancient Egyptian night now truly envelopes you. Having explored life's vibrant beauty rituals, it's time to gently transition to how beauty transcended mortality, entering the realm of the afterlife. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not an end but a transformation, and maintaining one's appearance was crucial for navigating the journey to eternity. This brings us to the intricate preparations for afterlife beauty. One mainstream historical fact about afterlife beauty is the elaborate process of mummification itself, which, at its core, was a preservation of form. While we often focus on the evisceration and drying with natron, a significant part of the process involved stuffing and padding the body to restore its lifelike appearance. Nails were often painted with henna, just as they were in life. Hair, or wigs, would be carefully arranged. The deceased's face might be lightly made up with kohl or ochre to ensure they looked their best for their eternal journey. Imagine the meticulous care taken to ensure that a loved one, or a pharaoh, would present a perfect, idealized image to the gods in the field of reeds. It's certainly a more involved beauty routine than simply picking out a nice outfit for a formal occasion. Now for a quirkier tidbit. Not only was the body prepared, but cosmetic tools and substances were often buried with the deceased. Tombs frequently yield exquisitely crafted cosmetic palettes, kohl pots, and jars of unguents and oils, sometimes still containing traces of their original contents. This wasn't just sentimental, it was practical. The belief was that the deceased would need these items in the afterlife to maintain their beauty and hygiene, just as they did in life. So, you might find a noblewoman buried with her favorite jar of morina oil, ready for use in the eternal morning. It makes you wonder what modern items we'd want to take with us if we believed we'd need them for eternity. Perhaps an extra large bottle of moisturizer and a lifetime supply of good coffee? Historians still argue whether the extreme emphasis on preserving physical beauty for the afterlife was driven primarily by a belief in the necessity of a recognizable body for the Ka, life force, and Ba, personality, to return, or if it was also a reflection of an overarching cultural ideal of order and perfection that extended beyond life itself. Was it a practical necessity for the soul's journey, or a profound artistic expression of eternal beauty? As you drift, The image of meticulously prepared mummies, serene in their eternal slumber, their faces subtly touched with the pigments of life, serves as a testament to a culture that truly believed beauty was everlasting. The ancient Egyptian night, now deep and dreamlike, carries you further through the nuances of their cosmetic world. While we've spoken of pharaohs and priests, it's crucial to understand that beauty wasn't solely the domain of the elite. Commoners' care reveals how everyday Egyptians, despite their more modest means, also found ways to incorporate beauty and hygiene into their daily lives. One mainstream historical fact about commoners' beauty is their ingenuity in using locally available and more affordable materials. While pharaohs might import rare resins, the average Egyptian relied on more accessible resources. For instance, instead of costly morina oil, they might use castor oil or simple animal fats for moisturizing. Clay and mud from the Nile were used for cleansing, and perhaps even as simple facial masks. Coal, though still used by everyone, might be sourced from more common galena deposits rather than the highest quality, most finely ground minerals. It was about making do with what was at hand, yet still striving for cleanliness and a presentable appearance. Imagine a farmer, after a long day in the fields, washing off the dust with Nile water and then applying a simple, cooling oil to his skin, a necessity, but also a small act of self-care. Now for a quirkier tidbit. Even commoners might have dabbled in rudimentary forms of perfume, not through elaborate maceration of flowers, but by simply rubbing fragrant herbs or spices on their skin or clothing. Crushed mint leaves or dried chamomile could offer a subtle, refreshing scent without the need for expensive oils. There's also evidence that poorer Egyptians might have used plant-based dyes, like those from the henna plant, not just for aesthetic adornment, but also for practical purposes like dyeing fabrics for clothing or even as a simple antiseptic for minor cuts. It just goes to show that human creativity, especially when it comes to smelling nice and looking good, knows no bounds, regardless of economic standing. Historians still argue whether the participation of commoners in beauty rituals was primarily an emulation of the elite, driven by a desire to mimic the powerful, or if these practices arose independently from basic needs for hygiene and protection in the harsh environment. Was it a trickle-down effect of royal fashion, or simply practical common sense? As you drift, you can almost hear the soft, rhythmic sounds of daily life in an ancient Egyptian village, the grinding of grain, the distant bleating of goats, and perhaps the faint, pleasant scent of mint from a nearby dwelling, a subtle testament to universal human desires for comfort and well-being. As the ancient Egyptian night progresses, you might find yourself pondering a deeper question. Were all these elaborate beauty routines merely about looking good, or was there something more fundamental at play? This leads us to a fascinating discussion. Was their pursuit of beauty about health or vanity? For the Egyptians, the line between these two was often wonderfully blurred, almost non-existent. One mainstream historical fact that supports the health argument is the clear antiseptic and protective properties of many of their cosmetic ingredients. We've already touched on coal's ability to reduce glare and possibly ward off eye infections. Similarly, many of the oils and balms, like castor and morina, were not just moisturizers. They contained antimicrobial properties and provided a physical barrier against the sun and wind, preventing skin damage and infection in a hot, dusty environment. Imagine not having access to modern medicine and relying on natural remedies for everyday ailments. These beauty products were often their first line of defense against illness. So, that daily application of balm wasn't just for soft skin, it was preventative medicine. Now for a quirkier tidbit. The Egyptians had a strong belief in the interconnectedness of physical well-being and spiritual purity. To be beautiful was often seen as being healthy and, by extension, being favored by the gods. So, while you might think applying a face mask is just for pampering, for an ancient Egyptian, it could also be an act of devotion, ensuring they were aesthetically pleasing in the eyes of their deities. It's a bit like believing that brushing your teeth not only prevents cavities, but also makes you more angelic. It certainly adds a layer of spiritual gravity to your morning routine, doesn't it? Historians still argue whether the aesthetic component of Egyptian beauty practices was a deliberate and primary goal in itself, or if beauty was largely a fortunate byproduct of practices primarily intended for health, hygiene, and spiritual protection. Was looking good the aim, or was it merely a pleasant side effect of staying healthy and clean? As you drift, you can almost see the ancient Egyptian meticulously applying kohl, knowing it both sharpens their gaze and protects their eyes from the desert glare. A perfect harmony of health and vanity, a testament to a culture that saw no contradiction between the two. The ancient Egyptian night air continues to calm your senses, and as you reflect on their self-care, a new dimension emerges, the surprising impact of foreign influences on their beauty trends. Despite their seemingly self-contained culture, ancient Egypt was a nexus of trade, and the flow of goods from distant lands often brought with it new ideas and materials that subtly shaped their aesthetic preferences over millennia. One mainstream historical fact demonstrating foreign influence is the introduction of specific luxury ingredients through trade routes. Lapis lazuli, a vibrant blue gemstone highly prized for its color and often used as a pigment for eye makeup or in jewelry, was primarily imported from Afghanistan. Similarly, certain types of frankincense and myrrh, used in perfumes and religious rituals, came from the Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa. These exotic materials added new shades to their palettes and new scents to their air, reflecting a growing sophistication and access to a wider world. Imagine the excitement of a new shipment arriving, carrying glittering blue stones from a land far away, ready to be ground into a striking cosmetic. Now for a quirkier tidbit. While they certainly imported goods, sometimes the foreign influence was less about a new product and more about adapting existing ones based on interactions with neighboring cultures. For instance, while kohl was indigenous to Egypt, the styles of applying it or the specific shades preferred might have subtly shifted over centuries due to trade and conquest, incorporating slight variations seen in Nubian or Mesopotamian traditions. It wasn't always a direct adoption, but more of a gentle cultural osmosis, like borrowing a spice from a friend's recipe and making it your own. You can almost see an ancient Egyptian artist, perhaps visiting a bustling market, noticing a subtle difference in the eye makeup of a foreign merchant and incorporating that tiny variation into their own practice. Historians still argue whether the integration of foreign beauty practices and materials was a sign of cultural openness and adaptation, or if it was primarily driven by the desires of the elite to display their wealth and access to exotic luxuries. Was it about broadening their aesthetic horizons, or simply showing off how well-traveled their trade routes were? As you drift, you can almost hear the soft clatter of goods being unloaded from a merchant ship on the Nile, carrying not just mundane necessities, but also shimmering pigments and fragrant resins from distant lands, all destined to enhance the already impressive beauty rituals of the ancient Egyptians. The profound stillness of the ancient Egyptian night holds you gently, and as you reflect on their intricate beauty routines, it's impossible not to consider the practical side, the elegant and ingenious beauty tools they employed. From humble combs to gleaming mirrors, these implements were not just functional. They were often miniature works of art, reflecting the Egyptians' deep appreciation for aesthetics in every aspect of life. One mainstream historical fact about ancient Egyptian beauty tools is the use of finely crafted mirrors. Unlike our glass mirrors today, ancient Egyptian mirrors were typically made from highly polished bronze or copper. These metal discs, often with beautifully carved handles depicting deities or symbolic figures, were essential for applying kohl, styling wigs, and generally checking one's appearance. Imagine trying to get a perfect kohl line with a slightly reflective, often tarnished, piece of metal. It certainly speaks to their dedication and patience, doesn't it? It makes you appreciate the crisp, clear reflection of your bathroom mirror just a little bit more. Now for a quirkier tidbit. While they had mirrors, they also used various small spoons and spatulas made from materials like wood, ivory, or even shell. These weren't for eating. They were specifically designed for scooping out and applying thick unguents, balms, and powdered pigments from their small jars and pots. Some of these spatulas were exquisitely decorated with animal forms or intricate patterns, turning a simple functional item into a personal treasure. You can almost picture an ancient Egyptian noblewoman carefully dipping a tiny, bird-shaped spatula into a pot of fragrant morina oil, preparing for her day. Historians still argue whether the elaborate decoration and craftsmanship of many beauty tools were primarily intended to signify the owner's wealth and status, or if they were also imbued with symbolic meaning, perhaps offering protection or good fortune to the user. Was a cosmetic palette simply a surface for mixing pigments, or was its artistic design also a charm against evil? As you drift deeper into the night, you can almost feel the smooth, cool surface of a polished bronze mirror, reflecting the quiet determination of an ancient face preparing for the day, or perhaps for eternity. The ancient Egyptian night has now woven its spell completely, wrapping you in a profound quiet. As our journey through their beauty secrets draws to a close, we arrive at the soft murmurs of their fading echoes. What remains of this ancient obsession with appearance, and how does it resonate, however faintly, in our world today? One mainstream historical fact about the lasting legacy of ancient Egyptian beauty is the undeniable influence of their aesthetic ideals on subsequent cultures. From the Roman Empire's adoption of kohl to the enduring fascination with Cleopatra's allure in modern media, the Egyptian approach to beauty left an indelible mark. The emphasis on dark, almond-shaped eyes, the use of rich, vibrant colors, and the sophisticated blend of natural ingredients all find echoes in various forms across history, right up to our current beauty trends. You might see a modern eyeliner ad that, without realizing it, pays homage to a technique perfected millennia ago along the Nile. Now for a quirkier tidbit, the very scent of some of their most prized perfumes, like the famous Mendesian perfume, was so renowned that attempts have been made in modern times to recreate it using ancient recipes and archaeological findings. Imagine the quiet dedication of researchers trying to piece together fragmented formulas, grinding spices, and infusing oils, all to capture a scent that has lingered in the dust of tombs for thousands of years. It's a testament to the enduring human desire to connect with the past through our senses, to breathe in a fragment of what an ancient queen might have smelled. It's almost like a ghost of a fragrance, isn't it? Historians still argue whether the primary reason for the enduring appeal of ancient Egyptian beauty is its exoticism and mystery, or if it speaks to universal human desires for order, health, and a connection to the divine through physical perfection. Is it the allure of the unknown, or a timeless aesthetic that continues to captivate us? As the final tendrils of ancient history recede, you can feel the quiet whisper of their legacy in the pigments of your makeup, the oils in your lotions, and the timeless desire to feel beautiful, a desire that stretches back to the very dawn of civilization along the banks of the Nile. The gentle hum of the ancient world slowly fades. The desert air is cool, and the stars twinkle softly, one by one. You are safe now, nestled in the quiet comfort of your own time and space. The distant echoes of pharaohs, the subtle sense of ancient unguents, and the quiet dedication to beauty have all served their purpose, lulling your thoughts into a peaceful rhythm. There is nothing left to do but surrender to the quiet, letting the last whispers of history dissolve into tranquil dreams. Your body feels heavy, your mind serene, and the journey through time has brought you to this very peaceful moment. Just breathe, slowly and deeply, and let the softness of sleep carry you away. End of script. Sweet dreams.